SMT Nation, we back. We got a story coming out of Light Reading, Mike Dano, the author. A trend that is probably going to be coming down the pipeline here. We're going to notice it more so probably going through the end of next year into 2024. But I think it is inevitable. These companies are going to start looking at what point are we going to slow down our spending? They are spending huge bucks, bags of money being spent on network upgrades, and eventually it's going to have to slow. Okay, so bracing for a slowdown in 5G network spending, T-Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon all deep in the midst of spending billions of dollars to upgrade 5G networks with mid-band spectrum. To recap how this has played out, T-Mobile has been spending on building out its 2.5 gigahertz that it acquired through the Sprint merger. They've been doing this for a couple of years. As they enter year 3, and they're starting to now approach the 260 million pops of coverage, how much of the country they cover with respect to number of people within these different markets and PEAs. They're kind of, I don't want to say winding down, but they're in the home stretch of trying to get to that national coverage of, 300 million pops. Once you get to that point, the upgrades for that specific spectrum is going to start to really slow. A lot of places already have it. They may want to look to densify in some instances, but they're starting to kind of reach the end of the line in terms of new builds. AT&T and Verizon a little bit different. They're doing it through C-band. They only got that cleared at the end of last year and started building it in a major way this year. So they still have a couple of years in which they're going to be trying to get to that same type of build and reach as, say, for example, T-Mobile, right? So T-Mobile's build is going to take them essentially about 3.5 years. For Verizon and AT&T with an accelerated plan, they're going to probably do this in about 2.5 years. All right, maybe they'll approach 3 years, depending on that last leg of the build. The efforts are most definitely impressive as they are trying to create capacity. AT&T, obviously, they want to build out a capacitive network that their customers enjoy. And then for Verizon, they're trying to double dip, right? They're doing fixed wireless access, 5G home internet, and also doing a mobile network, right? So those two things going hand in hand. They're obviously motivated to do this and get an ROI, double dipping. So the spending at some point, starting in 2023, you're probably going to start to see a cutback just because it's going to peak. It's not going to completely fall off a cliff, but it is going to kind of recede, and we're going to see numbers slow down. Now, who's that going to impact? That's going to impact companies like Ericsson, Nokia, Samsung, right? Their numbers, their revenues are going to probably dip because their biggest customers, T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T, are going to be slowing in their spending. And then, of course, companies like Crown Castle, who own tower sites and lease them, all their growth is going to start to kind of stabilize in terms of building new sites and macros, and the small cell business might peak. Actually, that's something that could be explored at a later video, but there is definitely going to be a drop significantly at Verizon and T-Mobile next year. Now, why they didn't speak to AT&T here, I don't know, but it's going to be more of the same. But one could argue that AT&T is probably going to be the last one to slow down their spending because they were the company that started the latest. So first it was T-Mobile, then it was Verizon who hit the track running, and then a few months later it was AT&T. But it's all going to be within like a quarter or two. All right, so 2022 spending is probably going to be the peak spending point for the carriers. You're going to see a slight dip next year, and then you're going to see a precipitous dip in 2024 for sure. All right, so here are some quotes from the CEOs. This year is sort of a peak capital year, according to CEO of T-Mobile, Mike Sievert. He said next year, capital will be lower. Verizon executives saying the same thing. Hans Vestberg, the CEO of Verizon, we invest in our business. Specifically, he was speaking to the $10 billion they've dedicated just to the C-band build alone. That does not impact the wireline and the rest of the mobile business, which it's probably around 19 or 20 billion. It's pretty close, right? Probably 19 billion. He said next year we come down. Okay, T-Mobile raised Capex in 2022 to a high of 13.7 billion. Previous high was 13.5 billion. T-Mobile could cut its Capex by as much as 24% in 2023 down to 10.2 billion. Do they really need to keep the spending so high? Did they have to continue to raise capex? It's really up to their goals. What do they want to do with their network? In my estimation, just because of financial restriction, and you look at economic climate and just kind of like how high the capex has been, they just feel like they must reduce capex. It would be their financial responsibility. But T-Mobile has so much to do. I don't know if they're going to be able to actually reach certain things that I've wanted them to do. For example, the millimeter wave build. Knowing that they're going to cut capex tells me that the millimeter wave build is still not going to be tangible or substantial in 2023. So that might be something to maybe explore maybe in 2024. But I think this is a foregone conclusion. We're not going to see much in millimeter wave. You might see it in its spots. You might see it from time to time in certain cities. They're not doing anything with it yet from a substantial type of build. Uh, Maybe if it came down like 10%, but it's coming down 24%. Small cell build, again, I don't think they're ready to do that. You can't cut 24% and then still, focus on some new types of network technologies like millimeter wave and CRAN and small cells. So to me, you're gonna see a little bit of it, but not much. If this was like at 12 billion, I'd feel a little bit better about it. But coming down to 10, that's pretty rough. Verizon estimated to spend 22.3 billion on total capex this year. Wow! So that includes the C-band and the regular mobility spend, wireless and wireline. They're going to lower that to 19.9 billion last year. So they're dropping the same number of dollars, but they're still spending more. Don't be surprised if Verizon still continues to build 17,000 millimeter wave nodes annually. They've said that they're going to stick with that, and it's working for them. They're probably going to start investing in some C-band small cells too, and being the fact that they actually own and operate somewhere between 45 and 50% of their fiber tells you something, right? T-Mobile's not in that position. AT&T is in that position, and I think they want to be the fiber owner and operator on like 75% of their sites. Okay, so they've got a totally different, um, intention. So AT&T at 24 billion in capex, and they're saying that spending is going to continue through 2025 due to its massive fiber build out projections. So you might see like in 2024 for AT&T, a pullback in wireless spending, but you're still going to see spending on fiber. It really does convert and win for them. So with 5G spending going to slow, that probably doesn't sound good to you, but it's going to be at a point where I think they've done most of the heavy lifting and they're going to be filling in density type of spots, right? Filling in gaps where they don't have capacity. And then you're going to start to see more spending towards CRAN. And let's call a spade here. To truly do a solid 5G network, you must densify. You must add more sites. The frequencies get higher, the propagation gets more difficult. Trying to get penetration into buildings, you simply just have to densify. And then we're going to start to see new tools, right? We're going to see like DAS systems and pivots and echoes and things to help propagate signals. We've already seen, internal repeaters for C-band be an option, and stuff like that. So look for more of this coming down the line. But again, the heavy lifting will be done by the end of next year for most carriers. By 2024, you're not going to be seeing these massive spends. Those peaks are now done at that point for these carriers, and everything's going to be just filling in gaps and trying to densify. So once you've got like 80 to 90% of your sites upgraded, the spending is going to slow. All right. So if, say, for example, T-Mobile has 70,000 cell sites and they've upgraded 60,000 of them, you've got 10,000 to do in the next year, but you already did 60,000 of them, right? So you have just a small percentage, maybe 15% of the sites that have to be upgraded. You can do that over the course of 2 years on a slow and steady spend. Same thing with Verizon. Once they've got 2/3 of their tower sites done, you're going to expect that to kind of slow. And then same thing with AT&T. So this is coming. This may not sound good to you, but it may be an indication that the network is mostly done with all the new spectrum that they bought in the last couple of years. For AT&T, it's DoD and C-band. For T-Mobile, They're going to be adding some radios and stuff too with DoD and C-band and 2.5, and then Verizon just going ham on C-band and then doing a little bit of millimeter wave and C-RAN for sure. But that's what it is, folks. So don't be shocked when the spending comes down. Is this going to help your bill? Absolutely not. It's just going to help them try to get a return of investment. They're going to try to maintain profitability. But this is most definitely on the horizon because this was the renaissance of spending. They had to get all the spectrum on air. You got to hang radios and antennas. That stuff's going to slow down. But they are going to be spending more on OpEx too. You're going to see a lot of backhaul, fiber backhaul getting upgraded at sites, going from, going to 1 gig backhaul to 10 gig backhaul and multi-gig circuits. So that way they can actually push the spectrum to create the gigabit speed, the 2 gig speed, stuff like that. They've got lots of spectrum now, these carriers. They can do it. And they've got fixed wireless access if you're T-Mobile, Home Internet, and Verizon. AT&T doesn't have that, but they're still going to be spending. So the spending's going to happen, just not at the crazy pace we once saw. Comment down below. You all the voice of the people, the SMT Nation. Let your voice be heard. Like, share, subscribe for more. Turn on the bell notification icon to never miss an upload. Links in the description for my Twitter, my Gmail for all business inquiries, my Patreon page if you want to support us there. Get early access to content and exclusives not found anywhere else. Also, we have the membership option. You guys can become members and get the access as well. Thanks for supporting. Thanks for watching. See you all in the next one. Peace.